Anthony Skinner, good to see you again, man.
Good to see you, Ian. I'm happy that we're together with another episode today.
Yes, another episode of the Enneagram and Stress Quarantined, as
And
it's
today
known.
we're talking about the challengers, the eights.
God bless them. Yeah, we're going to talk about eights, the challengers. And as has been the case with every other number, what we're trying to do here is help each type during a time of stress and crisis, unlike any we've ever known, at least in my
Yeah.
lifetime, right?
Yes.
How to be their most skillful, helpful, most compassionate expression of themselves, particularly when you're living in tight quarters, unable to leave very often. Stuff can go wrong.
I
And,
love
and
this. Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say I love this. Love that we're doing this. Could you tell us a little bit about eights to begin with, maybe?
yeah, so you know that my my mother and my daughter are eights, and I love both of them dearly. I called my 92-year-old mother the other day to ask her if she had been attacked yet by the coronavirus, and she goes, "It wouldn't dare."
I have to say, so we've talked about your mother a few times on the show. I have had the privilege of meeting your mother, and that is not an exaggeration. She's a force, even the voice.
Even the voice. And my daughter Kaylee, she
Mhm.
came up with a line the other day, because eights can be wicked funny, man.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, they when they're healthy, they're arguably in a social setting the most popular number on the Enneagram when they're healthy.
Wow.
People love to be around healthy eights. Kaylee's a healthy eight. She had a great line today. We were having one of those playful disagreements with lots of banter.
Uh-huh.
And after a while, I said something, and she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry if I pushed all your buttons. I was looking for mute." I mean,
That is hilarious.
that's pure fun, eight, kind of aggressive, in your face fun,
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, that's what they're like in good times.
Yeah. Yeah. So why don't you tell us what challenges they might be dealing with during some of this stressful season?
Yeah, well, when eights aren't in a good space, when they're on autopilot, they're not self-aware, they can really be hell on wheels. So remember, eights are what we call self-extending personalities. They're commanding. These are people who need to be in control. They're very expansive. Do you know what I mean by that? In
Yeah.
other
Right.
words, their energy is very expansive. And oftentimes it's too intense for the situation, right?
Mm.
So energy, like what would I say? You know how light throws out at a certain distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It throws out light. Like when it comes to energy, they're like spotlights. They're like gigantic energy, light flying all around them. It's fantastic, but that means that sometimes they can walk into a room where you're sitting and have been sitting for several hours watching television, and they take over. Like next thing you know, they've got the remote in their hand. They're offering unsolicited opinions. Their stuff ends up kind of being everywhere. You start to feel like an occupying army has taken over the space.
Right.
You know?
Right. That's a good description. Yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't go over well in crowded quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Right, with all that energy. So, I often tell eights, be self-aware about how expansive and self-extending you are.
That's so good.
Try to bring the energy in a little bit. Be aware that your larger-than-life presence can take over whole spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So make space for other people's energy. Like just constrain it just a little bit, right? Because otherwise they can become really demanding and kind of pushy. And like I said, and I think it's an important phrase, they use more energy than is needed for a situation.
Oh, that's so
It's
good.
just more energy than they need.
So how about, as we've done in the past, 2 or 3 tips for the eights during this season?
Yeah. So the first one I'd say is I think people feel more defenseless today than ever before. They feel less in control, more at the mercy of this virus,
Hmm.
something that they can't even see. Um, I was thinking today, we lost Joe Diffie,
Hmm.
the great country
So
singer and
sad.
writer, recently to coronavirus. John Prine is very sick.
Hmm.
We read this stuff in the papers and hear it on the news, and we just feel defenseless, right? So I would tell eights, don't judge yourself or other people as being weak when they share tender, vulnerable feelings.
Mm.
Eights can sometimes judge people for sharing feelings because they interpret it as weakness,
Okay.
right? So I want them to broaden their definition of courage and strength to include vulnerability, because in life, what really requires courage is vulnerability. I mean,
Mm.
vulnerability requires more courage than just about anything,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, mutual expressions of support. Don't be afraid to share your feelings. And what that does is it creates so much. It just brings so much oxygen back into relationships and into a room
Mm.
when people are honest that way.
Yeah. Number two.
Well, as one Enneagram writer wrote, eights are great when they surrender to the joys of the simple things in life.
Mm.
Okay.
Tell us more
So,
about
because,
that. Yeah.
well, they just have this incredible ability to enjoy with gusto the wonderful little things of life. So let me give you an example of this. My daughter Kaylee is a world-class cook,
Okay.
and she can go into a kitchen full of leftovers. And by the way, she goes in the kitchen, self-extending personality. You do this, you do that. I got this, you do that. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
suddenly I've got like I'm on an episode of Master Chef. You know what I'm saying? And knives are going like this. And grinding, and the blender's going over here. And but don't
Right.
do it like that. The onions are you're burning the onions. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And but then she comes up with this beautiful feast. She loves food, and she loves
Mm.
preparing it, and she loves to see other people enjoy the culinary art gift that she has. And when you do that in tight quarters, when you bring that joy of simple
Ooh, that's
living,
good.
being together around a round table, not everybody going off to watch television to kind of escape reality. It's like, no, let's come together, let's eat,
Mm.
let's love. And that's a wonderful thing to do in tight quarters for eights.
I love that. Let's give us one more before we go out.
Yeah, this one's simple. So when sequestered, in a house for long periods of time, eights have to be careful that they don't fall into excessive behaviors, right? We all know that the one of the things that eights struggle with is they're excessive. They do everything to the nth squared degree, right? They overwork, they overeat, they overexercise, they over this, they just do everything in a way that, as one friend of mine told me, the phrase he heard growing up more than anything else was, "You're too much."
Mm.
And
Wow.
sometimes, they
It's
will.
true.
It's true. So they have to be careful they don't fall into excessive behaviors to fend off boredom.
Okay.
To fend off boredom, because all that gusto can run riot and create tension for people who have less stamina. Like I got two
That's good.
nines in our lives. They got less stamina than eights, right?
Right.
And so, they just have to be careful that they don't fall into too much excess, too much drinking, eating, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and I think if they do these three things, now remember, this is the whole point of this series. If they do these three things, they will contribute to creating an environment in which people can really flourish, not just cope, in a time of stress when we're all quarantined and just dealing with something we've never dealt with before.
Yeah.
And Eight's more than any other number you want in your mix at a time like this, because when they're good, they're courageous, they're decisive, they're open-hearted, they're energetic, and they have a deep capacity for loving other people when they're healthy. And that's what we need.
Hmm. That's a good one to go out on.
Yes, it is.
Well, we're grateful to all of you eights out there. We're grateful for you. And like Ian said, we need your presence and need you to show up to yourselves during this time, your leadership and your love and your life that you offer to all of us. So we're grateful for you. Challengers out there, much love from us here at Typology, Ian and myself. And we'll see you next episode. We're talking about the peacemakers.
Ooh, love them.
All right. See ya.